Nigeria's COVID-19 cases now 21,371. Federal government submits school reopening proposal as Oyo State postpones school resumption date. In international news, Britain further relaxes COVID-19 restrictions as French schools reopen. And in sport, Rangers United wants NPFL season cancelled.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. 452 new COVID-19 infections announced by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has put the country's total cases at 21,371. 13 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, all recorded new cases. Lagos had the highest number with 209. And CDC also announced 229 patients were discharged across the country, bringing the total number of discharged patients to 7,338. The federal government has submitted to the National Assembly a proposal containing details of how best to reopen schools amid the coronavirus pandemic. Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajubu, made the submission on Tuesday when he appeared before the Senate Committee on Basic and Secondary Education. Nwajubu says because children are asymptomatic carriers, there is a higher risk of infecting one another. The minister says the proposal was submitted for criticisms and inputs from the lawmakers. Meanwhile, Oyo State government has rescinded on its decision to reopen schools next Monday. State authorities say decision to move the date by a week was made after a meeting was held to discuss the level of compliance with safety protocols. As of Tuesday, Oyo State had a total of 1,055 COVID-19 cases. Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State says some members of the PDP National Working Committee are sycophants and tax collectors who would never speak the truth. Wike says he pulled out of the reconciliation panel because some members of the committee opted to blackmail him instead of carrying him along in the processes. Meanwhile, all aspirants vying for the governorship ticket of the People's Democratic Party have agreed to settle out of court. The request for the settlement was initiated by Plaintiff's Counsel Ferdinand Obe. The Federal High Court in Port Harcourt had earlier restrained Governor Obaseki from participating in the PDP primary, while another High Court order restrained the PDP and INEC from removing and preventing Governor Obaseki or any other aspirant from participating in the primary election, which holds on Thursday. Nigerian resident doctors have called off their one-week-long strike after some state governors intervened. The Association of Resident Doctors says the union called off the strike to give more time for the federal government to fulfill their demands. Deji Badmos has the details.
The resident doctors make up around 45% of doctors in Nigeria, and without their services, state-run hospitals would essentially ground to a halt. So it's no surprise the government was quick in striking a deal with them, which led to the suspension of the strike. They're now fully back to work as officials of the association confirm their demands are now being met.
As regards life insurance, they've shown some commitments. Then the COVID-19 inducement allowance, they've started the payments, though they've not completed the payment as we speak now. Then secondly, the 26 of our members who were sacked or disengaged at Jos University Teaching Hospital, they've been recalled as we speak now. And then again, they also agreed that the Residency Training Act of 2017 will be universally implemented in all the centers. The Federal Ministry of Health has dispatched some personal protective equipment or gears to our members, especially at the federal and state teaching hospitals and some state governments. And we want to state clearly that provision of personal protective equipment It's not a one-off thing.
Operations at the National Hospital in Abuja were affected when the resident doctors went on strike, as quite a number of them work here. But things are now back to normal.
During the few-day strike, of course, the level of patients that we are attending to actually reduced. But now we can see the turnout of patients have actually increased. People are coming to source for medical services in National Hospital. So we're back. We're fully back to work.
State-run hospitals are the first choice for majority of Nigerians. And anytime resident doctors who work in the hospitals go on strike, a huge number of patients are left at the receiving end.
I was so happy that the resident doctor has finally called off the strike. And I pray that government should do whatever they agreed with them so quickly so that this strike, this is not the period the resident doctor should be going on strike.
While things are back to normal for now, the resident doctors have only suspended the strike for 4 weeks to allow the government fully meet their demands. They have warned that if that does not happen, they might down tools again, something the government says it will ensure the situation doesn't get to that stage.
The intention of the government should not be misunderstood. So therefore, the rights of all doctors and health workers will be protected by the Ministry of Health, by all means and in all ways.
The federal government says it has released 4.5 billion naira. That's just about $11.5 million now to 31 teaching hospitals and federal medical centers across the country as payment for hazard and inducement allowances for the months of April and May. But most states have not done the same. And that is where the problem is.
Coming up, African stories. Ghanaian president apologizes for demolition of Nigeria's diplomatic building in Accra. And later, international news. Britain further relaxes COVID-19 restrictions as French schools reopen.
You are watching ANN.
Remember that Nigerian was telling her I want marry. She dey come my house today. I'm gonna tell her to marry me.
Remember what I taught you about playing music from the internet?
I'm gonna play romantic music for her. The body remains small, make it done. Will you marry me? I have a surprise for you. Google, play me a romantic music. Everything is okay. Network is shaky. Google, play me a romantic music. Google, play me a romantic music.
Maybe I should go.
Don't let poor internet ruin special moments. Join the super fast and reliable 4G network and get double data.
Now the watch.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo has apologized to Nigeria for the demolition of a building at the Nigerian High Commission in Accra. Nigerian presidency said in a statement on Tuesday, the Ghanaian leader Akufo-Addo told President Muhammadu Buhari in a telephone conversation that a full investigation into the incidents will be carried out, adding that some suspects had been arrested and will be arraigned in court. A newly constructed building at the commission that was to serve as residence for staff and visiting diplomats was pulled down by armed men who reportedly stormed the High Commission in the early hours of Saturday and supervised as bulldozers demolished the newly constructed building. A church prayer meeting in Milos, a town at the border of Germany and Switzerland, triggered the biggest cluster of COVID-19 in France. At least 2,500 cases around the world are said to be linked to the religious gathering. Freelance journalist Ugochi Oluigbo visited the town and now tells us about its emergence after 8 weeks of lockdown.
Stefan is a strategic accounts manager based in Hamburg, Germany. He's one of the few passengers on this usually busy Basel-Strasbourg train service. It's been over 1 week since France began easing an 8-week nationwide lockdown. Stéphane is returning to his base after being stuck in Mulhouse, east of France, since the travel restrictions.
Yeah, I just stayed 2 months in a row with my girlfriend here, and yeah, I was actually in a very best scenario with my girlfriend, and I wasn't stuck somewhere
Mulhouse, a town in the Oran region of Alsace, was the epicenter of the earliest outbreak of the virus in France and one of the hardest hit. The coronavirus pandemic crippled this industrial town with museums, cafes and restaurants still closed. Here, a gathering of more than 10 persons is still prohibited.
In my relative, but for me it's a very delicate situation because there's so many cases every day, so many people days in so many countries. But I don't know, here in Stanley I think it's fine because it's small town, so I'm not really afraid about this situation.
So are you happy that the confinement has started?
Yeah, sure.
More than 28,000 people have died from COVID-19 infection in France. Even though the number of infections and deaths are on the decline and emergency makeshift hospitals are shutting down, this recovering town remains relatively quiet. The splashing of water at this fountain at the center of the town is a reminder of what life used to be here before residents and visitors kept away.
Well, I'm in the city of Mulhouse. And Mulhouse was really hard hit by this pandemic in France. And things are gradually getting back to normal. You can see people wearing their masks, especially in public transportation. Or you pay 135 euros if you're caught without a mask in public transportation.
Continental body African Union has suspended South Sudan for owing annual membership dues that have accrued to more than $9 million. The country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has confirmed the suspension and says Juba is working on resolving the matter. Patrick Hoyert has the story.
The African Union says for 3 consecutive years, South Sudan didn't pay its contributions, and that led to the suspension of the East African country. The government says it is working to resolve the problem.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Republic of South Sudan would like to assure that it is coordinating with the South Sudan Ministry of Finance and Planning to resolve the matter, not only with the AU, but also with the other regional and international organizations.
The government argues that it doesn't have funds because it is still recovering from a civil war which began in 2013 and only ended 2 years ago. The war has caused inflation and an economic crisis. Civil servants here have gone for months without salaries because of the country's economic crisis. South Sudan's economy depends on oil money to finance more than 95% of its budget, but oil prices have crashed after so many countries went into lockdown. One South Sudanese analyst says South Sudan's new government needs to do more.
There must be transparency in financial sector. This is very important because you need loans from the international community. You need grants from the international community. You cannot get these things if there is corruption in the financial system.
The AU imposes short and long-term measures against a member state that does not pay 50% of its contributions within 6 months, and until South Sudan pays up, it will not be able to take part in any African Union meetings.
Please.
When we return, international news. Britain further relaxes COVID-19 restrictions as French schools reopen. And later, sport. Rangers United want NPFL season cancelled.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, Africa News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Palestinians have taken to the streets joined by the European Union, United Nations and regional leaders to protest against Israel's plan to annex more areas in the West Bank. Correspondent Stephanie Freed has more.
This is the first Palestinian protest against Israel's planned annexation of the occupied West Bank. Palestinians from all over the West Bank were bussed in to attend this peaceful gathering. EU and UN delegates were also present to show their solidarity. The annexation plan was drawn up by the Trump administration in coordination with Israel, and it calls for applying Israel's sovereignty over Palestinian territories, including the Jordan Valley. According to international law, it is illegal.
It is not just against international law, but if it happens, it may kill the very idea that peace and statehood for the Palestinian people can be achieved through negotiations.
EU, UN, and regional leaders are voicing their opposition to annexation, and they're warning implementation could lead to regional violence and sanctions against Israel. Israel's government is earmarking July 1st as the target date for annexation to get underway. The Netanyahu government and the Trump administration are reportedly discussing a plan to annex the West Bank in installments over a period of several months. Details of the plan have not yet been made public.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced plans to further relax COVID-19 restrictions. This would include the opening of pubs, restaurants and air salons starting on July the 4th. Johnson told Parliament 2 meters apart of social distancing is required, but he said at least 1 meter would be where 2 meters could not be achieved as long as masks are being worn. The Prime Minister also said hair salons would reopen with appropriate precautions, including the use of visors. Johnson says other close contact services will be allowed to reopen once they can do so safely. The Prime Minister also said most leisure facilities and tourist attractions will be allowed to reopen on July the 4th as well, if they are able to safely do so. He said the National Health Service will start conducting test and trace activities, for which he urged businesses and citizens to cooperate. The Prime Minister threw in a caveat that if COVID-19 cases spike again, the government will reintroduce restrictions. There were happy faces of parents queuing in front of schools all over France on Monday. After 3 months in lockdown, they could finally send their children back to school. Some parents chose to keep their children at home, fearing new contaminations. Correspondent Stephen Devaris has the details.
It's breakfast as usual, but today is a bit different. After 3 months, the twins Charlie and Edgar are finally getting back to school.
I'm happy to go to school again, to see my friends again, and my teacher.
Their mother shares the joy, but for different reasons.
I'm very happy and relieved because, you know, I take care of the kids for 3 months and I try to do homeschooling every day, but it's very long, and so I'm happy for them, and I'm a bit happy for me too to have free times again.
Then it's time for the shoes, the backpack, and off they go to finally meet their classmates.
Vraiment, je suis content.
I'm really happy for the girls because I think it's important they'll see their teachers again. And I'm especially happy for me. I finally have the time to work.
On this first day after the corona crisis, everybody is adapting to the new rules. At this elementary school in Paris, parents are not allowed inside. In general, they are happy with the solution.
We're pretty happy now we're going back to normal again, and the kids need it too, to socialise and to see other things.
A relief for parents who work at home and who have children at home, because it's complicated to do both at the same time.
Elementary schools have no strict rules anymore, apart from kids washing their hands every hour. All children over 11 years old, however, will need to keep a social distance of at least 1 meter and will have to wear face masks.
I think the kids are really very happy, and the parents too.
But parents' relief will not last very long. In just 2 weeks the summer holiday starts, and that means they will have to entertain their kids again for another 2 full months.
Peru continues to battle with the coronavirus, while the post-pandemic future looks increasingly bleak. The country has surpassed Italy with nearly 250,000 COVID-19 cases and ranks second to Brazil in Latin America in number of infections. COVID-19 has simply worsened poverty in the Latin American nation. Correspondent Dan Collins is in Lima.
Nothing goes to waste. A whole chicken and a kilo of rice will go a long way for these families. This is an unexpected but welcome visit for this poor neighborhood. The visitor is Patricia Paraga, a single mother who felt compelled to help.
I didn't expect to be doing this, especially during the pandemic when we are all supposed to be in our homes. But I just couldn't stay at home because seeing so much need, I felt it was my duty to do something to help other people.
Paraga collects donations from friends and businesses and visits a new neighborhood every week. She doesn't belong to any NGO or charity. In fact, she's struggling to get by as well. But she recognizes that others are worse off. Here in Huaycan, in the arid hills to the east of Lima, the people fear hunger more than COVID-19. And after more than 3 months without being able to work, they're desperate for any help they can get.
Between 4 neighbors, we organized a common cooking pot. That's how we are trying to get through this.
My husband is not working, and sometimes at home we have to go without food. I worry more for the children. We can stand hunger, but the children cannot.
In March, Peru launched a $26 billion stimulus package, which included twice-monthly cash transfers to poor families. Despite that, only some of the residents here say they received that first payment of just over $100.
I'm glad that help gets here every now and again. We are a vulnerable, poor area, and just a few of us received the first government bonus payment. Thanks to her, now families will have something to eat.
Peru initially won praise for its early lockdown, but poverty and one of the region's highest levels of informal labor has stymied the handling of the COVID-19 health crisis. Once the lodestar of the region, Peru saw its economic activity drop by more than 40% year on year in April.
Up next, sports. Rangers United wants NPFL season cancelled. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sport. Enugu Rangers General Manager Davidson Owumi has confirmed he voted for Super 6 players to ensure the top 3 teams that will represent Nigeria in CAF inter-club competitions are strong and formidable enough to fly the country's flag. Owumi says he still believes cancelling the NPFL 2019-2020 season is the most credible option at the moment. Nigeria Professional Football League Football Club, Aqua United of Uyo, has condemned the purported club owners' points per game decision used in ending the 2019-2020 football season. Club owners voted to end the season on Sunday because of the coronavirus pandemic. The points per game strategy was used to have representatives at CAF competitions. 17 of the 20 clubs in the MPFL have voted for the league to be ended with the PPG format. Rangers International voted for a Super 6 to be played. Aqua United and Lobby Stars did not vote. That is in the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a pleasant evening.